What's up, interpreters? I'm Larry Beck, and I'm here with Paul Caputo and Stott, and I'm happy to be here, and we're going to talk about what's up.
What is up, interpreters? I'm NAI Executive Director Paul Caputo. With me, as always, is...
Me. I'm Song. I am the NAI Events Conferences Extraordinaire.
So this is pretty typical Larry Beck right here, this moment right here, where we said, Larry, introduce yourself. And he, of course, defers and says, I'm here with Paul and Song. Larry is a superstar in the world of interpretation, author of many, many books, and just widely respected, widely known, recently retired from San Diego State University. Go Aztecs?
Go Aztecs.
Aztecs. Right. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
The Song, I had the privilege of attending Larry's retirement party in San Diego. That was, what a beautiful day that was. And the amount of talk about Aztec basketball that was happening when I was there was something I had never experienced before. So that was a pretty great moment for me. So many people just with glowing remarks about Larry. I got to bask in the glory of Larry's 43 years at San Diego State University. So Larry, I think we just want to start with that, if you would. Your contributions to the field over all these years have been remarkable, and interpreters everywhere read your work as they're coming up through the field. I think we have to start with that, right? Like your impact on the field has been significant. Was that something, when you started your writing, was that something you set out to do, or did that just happen organically?
Well, what I actually want to talk about is more Aztec basketball. We made it to the national championship game this year. And the San Diego State University and all of San Diego was pretty excited about that. And we've had a good team over the last 20 years. Steve Fisher, who won a national championship, was at the helm. And then Brian Dutcher, his lieutenant, has taken over in the last 5 or 6 years. But as to the writing, yeah, I think that it was part of my job, actually, is how I fell into it. And once I went to graduate school at University of Minnesota, I got my PhD and then landed at San Diego State University. Pretty much, we're a research university. So to get by, you publish or perish. And so I realized very early on that I didn't want to perish. Part of the story, though, is very early on in my career, the president of the university cut about 10 departments. And there was a budget crisis in the state of California. This was in the early 1990s. And we were the #1 department, according to faculty scholarship, in the nation. And he cut us. As well as these other departments in the midst of the budget cuts. Well, I wound up for a semester going to Kansas State University, and the department at San Diego State was ultimately reinstated. So I talk about my time at Kansas State as sort of a sabbatical, but it was a bit more traumatic than that. But that's where I met Ted Cable. And this was in 1993, and we started writing a textbook together with Doug Knudsen, and then followed that with Interpretation for the 21st Century. The textbook came out in 1995, Interpretation for the 21st Century, 1998, and then with various editions of these books, Ted and I have been on 7 book projects together over, well, all of these years. So there was this tremendous serendipity of something bad happened, and we were able to turn it into something good. And that is, I met Ted, and we've done a lot of writing together.
Well, and I know Song wants to ask you about Costa Rica, because we had the pleasure of traveling with you in Costa Rica on the NAI study tour. But before we do that, you mentioned some of your book titles, and I was remiss in not, starting off with this. But you mentioned Interpretation for the 21st Century. That obviously has been a landmark book in the field. The Gifts of Interpretation and Moving Beyond Treeline. One that NAI published, Interpretive Perspectives, again with Ted Cable. Many of these are with Ted Cable, and of course, I have had the pleasure of working with you all of these many years, because you have contributed a series to Legacy magazine called Justice for All, which addresses issues of social justice. in the world of interpretation and at interpretive sites. So you and I had the opportunity to work on that for many years before I handed over the editorship of Legacy Magazine to Lucian Meadows. So, so much of this writing has been so instrumental for the field. And I know you don't want to talk about it, so I'm going to let Song talk to you about Costa Rica now.
I mean, I was going to say, well, Paul, you went to the retirement party, but I got to go to Costa Rica with Larry. Wait a minute. Darn it. You were there too.
I did get to go to Costa Rica with Larry Beck too.
Yeah, but that was a great international conference. I think one, because everybody was so excited we were able to travel again post-COVID. And but yeah, Larry, I mean, you've been to a lot of NAI conferences, both national conference and international. Tell us a little bit about your experience and why it's important to attend events and conferences.
Well, it was a great experience, and Song did a great job putting the whole thing together. I've told friends about the Costa Rica trip, and some of them who have been to Costa Rica, and it's almost as if they're envious of my experience. And I mentioned to them that, well, NAI is not only a national association, but has 30 different countries that are also part of the organization. So international really in scope, and that NAI has contacts because of all these people. And Song was able to put together, I think one of the highlights for me was Dr. Camacho, who is the director of academic programs at Monteverde Cloud Forest, the biological preserve. So that was a highlight. The places we stayed, those were highlights. The people that I was with, Vicky, my girlfriend for the last 10 years, she goes to the conferences with me. She's been to New Orleans and Palm Springs most recently, and of course France, the international conference in France in 2018. So all that was great, being with Vicky and then being with you guys, and then Parker was there. So it was great to meet the new president and spend some time with her. She's great. And then everyone else, all of the participants, just such a joy, including Song's mom, who I just think is a riot. She is really, really funny and just fun to talk to, and such a good sport.
Suzanne was great, honestly. Larry, you mentioned France. You and Ted gave the keynote in France. Obviously, the notion of interpretation on the international stage, creating a global network, is important to you. You've participated not just at the national level, but at the international level, including giving the keynote in France. What do you think is the value of growing the field internationally, or at least creating a network internationally?
Sure, I think that's real important, and I think there are ongoing efforts in that direction. I think the more we see of that, the better. We're all interconnected. I know that Sam Hamm has got books that have been translated into other languages. Ted and I have books that have been translated into other languages, and so it's real important to share that information, the research, the philosophy, the things that are going on. And, the more the merrier. So, yeah, no, I'm fully supportive of that. That said, I must say that this notion of an unconference was brilliant. Whoever came up with that should probably get an award. And then going back to Costa Rica, that was the first unconference. And what fun that was, not to really be stuck in a conference room listening to other people talk about stuff, but to hear the actual experts in the field going over these things. And again, that just was such an important part of this last experience.
This is an audio medium, but let the record show that I'm nodding enthusiastically.
Yeah. So Larry, the first time I saw your name come across stuff, of course, it was you and your amazing writing in Legacy Magazine. And you're doing a series, Justice for All, in Legacy. Tell us, why did you start writing that series?
That's a really good question. Thanks. It goes back now to 2018, and there was a certain person who was president of the country at the time who was doing some things that were disconcerting to many people, demoralizing. And that trend has actually continued. But concurrently, there were interpretive sites that were telling the nation's story in a new way, in a different way, that was including traditionally marginalized communities. And so I started going to these places. And that included, for example, Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York City. And the basically many consider the start of the LGBTQ plus movement, the queer community. And then Vicki and I went to Alabama and Georgia. And it was sort of looking at the civil rights movement primarily from the churches there. And we got to talk to, for example, a good friend of Martin Luther King Jr., a reverend himself who grew up with him in the Atlanta area of Georgia. And then this goes on and on. The latest article that I submitted to Legacy is the 26th in that series. And so there's no lack of material here. And interpreters are on the forefront of, I think, telling a full and honest story of the nation's history. And that would include everybody. So something that I'm interested in is anything that I've ever done is this Justice for All series. And that began with a conversation with Paul. And I said, I'd like to go to some of these places, Stonewall Inn, for example, Women's Equality Museum in Washington, D.C., and Bears Ears. It began with Bears Ears, which I worked there before it became Bears Ears in Utah, and Indigenous Perspectives, and so all of this is come together as a result of my offering to Paul 4 articles, and I thought that it would end there. And then I just kept going. Again, there's no lack of material. So that's my passion right now in the writing. And I've told Paul I'm going to take a break at some point, but and I don't know exactly when that'll be. Vicky's pretty excited that it'd be sooner than later. But, now that we're both retired. But yeah, that began with Paul, and then now I'm working with Lucian, and he is professional, and he seems like a great person. Very friendly, and so Paul has turned over the reins, but I feel like I'm in good hands. But that's quite a run that we had, Paul. That was a lot of articles.
It resulted in now part 26 of your 4-part series. So so far, so good. And the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had it was originally a trilogy, and I remember when the 5th book came out, it said on the cover, it said part 5 of the increasingly inaccurately named trilogy. So that's how I think of your series there, Larry.
Yeah.
We mentioned your retirement party. It was a beautiful sunny day in San Diego, because that's what days in San Diego are like. It was at Stone Brewing, which is a spot that I really enjoyed quite a bit. That was a great spot for a retirement party. It was right beside the airport. So every 2 minutes and 45 seconds, we got to pause and look up. And I remember asking if my 3 minutes and 37 seconds that I got to speak at your event was if that included the time that the airplanes were flying over. Thankfully, I got a reprieve for the 10-second delays every time an airplane flew over. But I bring that up just because it was, a 43-year career. You've seen a lot of changes. I think with this Legacy series, you're really on the forefront of thinking about the power, the potential, the responsibility of interpretation and interpreters. And so I'm curious to know, having seen the field change and progress and grow, hopefully over 43 years, what do you, as you leave the profession anyway, as you retire from teaching professionally, what do you see for the future of the field as we go forward?
Well,
that was a really long question, I realize.
Yeah. Gosh, and there could be a really long answer, or we're in uncertain times right now, going back to sort of what launched the Justice for All series. And those uncertain times have become progressively more uncertain. Mm-hmm. And actually, there's an article I worked with Lucian on. It's going to come out in the July-August issue of Legacy. And that's the issue on interpreting hope. So I guess my short answer to this is I'll direct listeners to that particular article about interpreting hope, because it really sums up, and I utilize Tilden's fifth principle, which is that interpretation is a whole. And so I begin the article, the subheading is the situation is bleak. And it is. I mean, if you pay attention to the news, this past week, probably the hottest ever recorded, with temperatures being recorded on planet Earth. The heat dome over the Southwest right now, the wildfires in Canada, and that's just climate change. We've got other problems as well, both international and domestic. And so I think that interpreters can and should be on the forefront, and this is the conclusion of that article about hope, in helping to direct us toward solutions.
So Larry, I mean, what's next? You said that, I know that Vicky is like, all right, come on. let's get you really retired, but that's not you. You can't sit still. What are you going to be doing next?
Well, it starts with Costa Rica. That was just almost immediately after that retirement party. And incidentally, that retirement party, it was so great that Paul was able to come out, and he came out just for the day, which is remarkable. And when my mother heard that someone had come out from Colorado to attend my retirement party in San Diego, she burst into tears. So
I will say my claim to fame now is I have made Larry Beck's mother cry. So
yeah.
So that was great. And and I think it's well known among my colleagues that I love beer. So yeah, Stone Brewing Company was the perfect venue for that. And then the thing is too that those planes were flying over, and everyone was given whatever the ridiculous short amount of time to speak, and every single person went over their allotted time.
Larry, it was a retirement party for an interpreter. I think we just had different interpretations of what 3.5 minutes meant.
That's right. And none of those interpretations concluded with anything less than 5. So it went on for a while. And then when I had my chance, I went on for a while as well. But as to the future, so Costa Rica happened right after that. And then there've been back trips. Vicky and I went to Santa Fe to visit good friends, Dan and Kathy Dustin. Dan is someone else who I've written fairly extensively with, not as much as Ted Cable, but I've written a bunch with Dan as well. And then we went to the Eastern Sierra, the John Muir's Range of Light, and a beautiful mountain range here in California. And we spent some time in the Eastern Sierra. We love to go there probably 2 or 3 times a year. It's about 6 hours north of here. So there will be more travel. We're going to the Azores in October, which we're really looking forward to. It's a hiking adventure. And there will be more travel as well. We want to go to Bhutan and Tibet and Nepal, and there will be some other trips. But Song, I think you're probably right. I'm going to have trouble sitting still. And I have benefited greatly from going to some of these interpretive sites that ultimately wind up in the Justice for All series that I've been writing. So there will be more of that. And then I'm kind of enjoying just having some time to read more. I love to read, love to hike, love to entertain. Vicky and I had a former student over. Paul, you might remember Carol and Amanda from the fundraising we did for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Carol and her boyfriend were over last night, so we'll do more entertaining and having more fun, but not giving up on the profession entirely either by any means.
Larry, I think just by mentioning your travel there, you got yourself on the 2025 International Conference Committee. So you expect an email from Song here momentarily. All right, so Larry, we want to be respectful of your time here, and like you say, we're trying to keep this to a certain amount of time every week, and that's not easy with interpreters. So Song and me included, by the way. That's
Yes.
we're part of that equation. So I do want to know, though, and I think the interpretation world would like to know, who would win an arm wrestling contest, you or Ted Cable?
Oh boy, I'll bet it would be a draw. Ted and I are similar in so many ways, and Ted's birthday is about a month or so after mine. I mean, we are almost exactly the same age.
Okay.
I'm about a month older. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know who would win a beer drinking contest between me and Ted. What I can tell you is that Ted would win if it was a bird counting contest.
Oh, okay.
Because Ted is amazing. I mean, he's among the top bird watchers, I think, in the world. And so I just read a book by Christian Cooper, and I would recommend it very, very highly to you. He's the one in Central Park who asked a woman to please put her dog on a leash, and then that video went viral. Now that's a bird watcher too.
Yeah.
So, and I could go on and on and on with your last question.
Well, so you mentioned Ted, and you mentioned a book, and so I guess I will ask you my actual last question, which is, do you have any writing plans? Do you have any more books coming in retirement?
Yeah, Ted and I may be working on something that expands the notion of the interpretive principles being a gift. And I may do something in terms of putting together all of those essays in the Justice for All series that's been running over the last 5 years, and combine those into something that would all be in one place. But before we leave, that reminded me of something about the gifts, and kind of following that up with a book with Ted. But here's your question: pop quiz. This is what professors do. The Gifts of Interpretation. It's about 15 guiding principles for interpreting nature and culture. And each of those are associated with a gift, right?
Uh-huh.
How many gifts are there?
1.
15.
There are 16. There are 16 gifts. There are
Just add our answers. We're right, Paul.
Right, Song and I got it together.
Yeah. So between the two of you, you were correct. And I've always thought you guys were a brilliant team, and you've just proved it.
I was told there would be no math, though.
That was magnificent. But now, so if you want to win a bar bet, here, you can use that question. And there are 15 principles that are associated with gifts, and then there is a bonus. And the bonus is the gift of hope. And the gift of hope is something, again, this essay that's coming up in Legacy, the current issue coming out in July, August, addresses that, the gift of hope. So there are 15 plus hope.
What a great note to end on.
Larry, oh my gosh, it was so good I can see you because we're on Zoom, but podcasters can only hear you, but always a pleasure to speak with you. And Paul, any final questions? Are we good? Think we got to wrap it up, yeah?
Yeah, let's see how good we've gotten at this. This is episode 4 of the podcast, where we haven't nailed this yet, but I have a feeling that with Larry, we're going to get this one.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Should we wrap it up? Let's do it.
Hey, interpreters.
That's what's up.
No, we're still not there, but that's maybe our best one yet, but we're still not there.
You want to try one more time?
No, I think for authenticity's sake, we got to leave it as is. Larry, thank you so much. This has been such a blast.
Bye.
Great team, you guys.